I'm standing in the amazing Loggerheads Country Park. It's just down the road from our office, and we came here today because it's the best way that we can think of to make the point that we want to make. Children learn differently outside. Not just a little bit differently, significantly differently. And with Outdoor Learning Day coming up, we wanted to visit 2 schools in our area who have figured out and actually built it into how they teach. One has just been commended for one of the best outdoor learning environments in Wales, and the other one has goats and chickens. Both are doing something most schools haven't quite cracked yet. Here's what we found. Quick bit of context. I'm Gavin, I work at Excell Supply, and we're a Welsh Government preferred education recruitment agency. We've been working with schools across North Wales, Chester, the Wirral and Shropshire for 15 years now, and for 11 of those years we've held preferred supplier status. I want to be straightforward with you. I'm not a curriculum expert. I'm not going to stand here and tell you how to run your outdoor provision. But what I can tell you is that we've been working in and around schools in this area for a long time. And outdoor learning, when it's done properly, genuinely works. So, what is it actually? Because I think there's a version of outdoor learning a lot of schools have in their heads, and it's not quite right. Most people hear the phrase and picture a teacher pointing at a field, pupils standing around in their coats bored, waiting to go back inside. That's not what we're talking about. Look around here for a second. There's a reason children who can't sit still in a classroom can spend 4 hours exploring in a place like this without anyone asking them to. The environment removes barriers that the indoor setting creates. It changes the relationship between the child and the task. A child who won't touch a worksheet will count animal feed without blinking, and a child who has written a full sentence all term will fill a notebook with what they found under a log. That's not magic. That's environment doing what curriculum design sometimes can't. Outdoor learning is using that effect deliberately. It's not about going outside for the sake of it. It's about identifying learning outcomes that the outdoor environment can hit more effectively than the classroom, and designing your provisions around those. Forest school, growing projects, animal care, environmental science, outdoor art, geography fieldwork, all of it counts as long as the intention is there before you step outside. Ysgol Parc at Llan have built their provision around exactly this principle. Their outdoor space was recently commended, and when we sat down with the head, what struck us was how seriously embedded it is. Not an add-on, not a treat, timetable planned and producing results.
In an ever-changing world where ICT seems to be the main focal point for children's learning these days, I think when they go home, their parents tend to give them an iPad and all they get to see is screens. We believe within our curriculum at Ysgol Parc at Llan, it's very bespoken for children to be creative, get involved in those physical activities, and they find it extremely engaging. And loose parts is something that we're very, very proud of here in Ysgol Parc at Llan. Estyn have been out to visit how loose parts is being initiated in school, and this was highlighted as one of the best in Wales as well, which is published in one of their national reports last year. And I think now with the new work shed that's in place and the new provision that we've got in the outside area, that's going to strengthen it even more. And I think it's really important that we develop and challenge these learners to be the best they can be, and to make Ysgol Parc at Llan a centre of excellence for learning.
Right, the evidence, because outdoor learning still gets dismissed in some quarters as a soft option. Something to do when the real lessons are done. So let's look at what the research actually shows, and we'll keep this tight. 3 things come out consistently: attention and focus. Children who struggle to regulate in a classroom environment often do significantly better outside. The change of setting resets something. It's not a cure by any means, but the effect is real. It's well documented, and you've got a cohort with high levels of dysregulation. Outdoor provision isn't a nice to have, it's a tool. Wellbeing. This one barely needs any explaining. Children's mental health took a serious hit over the last few years, and the evidence on physical activity, fresh air, and contact with physical nature is consistent and strong. Schools investing in outdoor provision report improvements in mood, attendance and anxiety levels. Not across the board by any means, but enough to matter. And this one surprised us: attainment gaps. Children who disengage in formal settings, they often thrive when the environment changes, not because the learning has been made easier, but because the barriers have been removed. A child who never contributes in class, who suddenly becomes the class expert on what's growing in the garden, that's not a small thing. That's a relationship with learning rebuilt. Now, Saltney Ferry have goats and chickens on their site, which sounds like a headline. And until you hear what the deputy head says, it's done for the children.
So we were lucky enough to get a funded visit through Social Farms and Gardens that paid for us to go to aggregation in Wrexham, to Woodcroft Farm, where farmer Cheryl gives these sorts of experiences on a bigger scale in her beef farm, and looking at the benefit the children had from going there. So we chose 20 children across the top end of school that would benefit from as an alternative learning experience, and that cemented it for me, looking at how much the children had from 4 hours on a working farm, and the conversations, the change in their narrative and understanding and feelings towards school. Some were quite negative, attitudes towards school itself, and seeing what worth and value it gave to them for that day. That cemented it for me. It was something we needed to explore. So we started off with chickens, developing the garden, and conversations around where your chicken nuggets come from that they didn't realise or register that came from a chicken. So that sort of took that on.
Both those schools have the evidence part working for them, but we've also seen outdoor learning tried in schools where it hasn't quite hit the mark. And when we've asked why, it usually comes down to the same handful of mistakes. So let's talk about those. There's 3 pitfalls. Each one has a fix. Here we go. Pitfall 1, it becomes weather dependent and timetable dependent. Outdoor learning only happens when the sun's out, or when a lesson falls through, or when someone remembers it's somewhere on the medium term plan. That's not outdoor learning, that is a treat. And children know the difference, and so do the staff. The schools doing this well treat it exactly like they treat maths or literacy. It's in the timetable, it's protected. The question isn't, shall we go outside today? It's, what are we going to do outside this week? Structural change, not a cultural shift. Put it in timetable and it happens. Don't and it won't. Pitfall 2. Staff aren't confident enough to deliver it properly. This one is it's pretty understandable, but it matters. A teacher who hasn't been trained for outdoor delivery will default to doing the same lesson in a different location. Marginally better, but not transformational. So, real outdoor learning needs staff who can use the environment, who can facilitate open-ended discovery without losing structure, who know the difference between a forest school session and just going outside. That comes from CPD. At Excell Supply, we offer free CPD for all of our registered candidates and supply staff. Outdoor learning is going to be one of the areas that we cover, but whether it's through us or another provider, your staff need that confidence before the provision can work properly. It's not optional. Pitfall 3, building the space before designing the curriculum. This is the expensive one. So schools invest in beautiful outdoor environments, sensory gardens, woodland trails, raised beds, and then nothing much changes because the space is there, but the intention isn't. You don't need goats and chickens like Saltney Ferry. You don't need a forest school canopy and a fire pit. You need a clear answer to just one question. What learning outcomes do I want to hit outdoors that are harder to achieve inside? Answer that first and then design your provision around it. Then develop your space to support it. The schools that we visited, both of them started with the pedagogy. The space followed. That's the sequence that works. So we came here today because we thought that this place would make the point better than we could in a studio. Outdoor learning isn't complicated in principle. It's children learning in a different environment, one that removes barriers, builds confidence and reconnects some pupils with the whole idea of learning. The schools doing it well aren't doing anything extraordinary. They've just decided it matters. They've protected time for it and they're giving their staff all the tools to deliver it. Outdoor Learning Day is coming up, and if that's the nudge that your school needs, then take it. You don't need a country park on your doorstep, you just need the intention. If you're a school in North Wales, Cheshire or the Wirral or Shropshire and you need supply cover, whether that's for staff doing CPD or just day-to-day absence, we've been placing teachers in local schools for 15 years. Our staff come trained. Details are in the description. And if this video was useful, there's more where that came from on our Excell Supply YouTube channel, Excell Connect. We'll see you there.